Hey guys, Godfather of Anxiety here again. I just figured I'd make a video on and give 7 tips and ways to stay busy in order to keep our anxiety at bay. I've talked about a lot in my other videos about how important it is to stay busy, excuse me, both mentally and physically. And I'm going to get into specific ways you can do this. I'll also add a couple of things that I personally find that help me when to be completely honest, as a husband and a father, I always have things that I can stay busy with. But at the same time, it's not just going to be staying busy. It's going to be staying busy doing the right things so that we don't exacerbate or worsen our anxiety. So, but this has been, learning the importance of staying busy has been a huge part of my recovery and staying recovered. So I figured I'd do a video about this. And before I start, let me just mention to you guys, if you guys are untreated with your anxiety, if you're really battling, if you're battling daily panic attacks or intrusive thoughts, perhaps you're clinically depressed, if you're really at a low point right now, this video is going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard to implement any of these things. I know I've been there. I remember when I couldn't read a page. I remember when I couldn't watch movies. I remember when I couldn't watch games. I remember when I couldn't go for drives in cars. When basically I couldn't do anything. When I couldn't carry on a conversation, especially with somebody that I didn't know really well. And then even if I did know the person well, the conversation might always go back to what was wrong with me, from a health standpoint. So I've been there. I've been in that predicament myself. And so these tips aren't for you guys. You guys you men and women out there who are at that stage of battling anxiety and depression absolutely need to go to see a mental health professional and get treatment. It's imperative, because it might take medication. It might take something, from the therapist, working things out with them to target exactly what's going on with you and how your anxiety or depression is manifesting itself. But it's important to go see a trusted mental health professional. And once you do and you start on your road to recovery, then this video is going to be perfect for you, because I'm telling you, the worst thing for people like us, people with these very intelligent, exceptionally creative minds, analytical minds, is idle time, is inactivity. That is going to be the death knell of you. I promise you. You need to keep your mind busy. It's essential. So the first tip I have is going to be to engage your senses. I talk about this all the time too in my videos. We were not intended to live by looking at screens and pressing buttons. And I'm not condemning technology. Technology's been great. The advancements in technology have made life so much better, have helped lengthen lifespans. These are brilliant people who've worked on these things. And, I'm grateful that, we have technology. Having said that, we still are not intended to live by, just looking at screens all day and pressing buttons all day. We need to engage all 5 senses. So how you're going to engage your senses depends on what you enjoy. One really good thing, and this has also been over the years, and I actually made a couple of videos about music, but one of the good ways to tell, even if your mental health where it's at, is to listen to music. Now, there are people out there that don't really enjoy listening to music. I mean, for someone like myself, that's hard to believe, but there are. So this wouldn't be a good thing for you guys. But for those of you who enjoy listening to music is a really good thing. It's been shown to help with mood. It's been shown to help with neuroplasticity or creating new pathways in the mind. So it's a really good thing to do. And depending again on how we react to it, it can be an exceptional way to keep our minds busy when we are anxious. Make sure you choose the music that is not going to, maybe rev you up too much or, exacerbate your anxiety. And I know, especially if you're still in the early part of recovery, music can have that effect. The other thing, if you're clinically depressed, sometimes listening to music has no positive effect. And the fact that it doesn't, especially if you love music, can actually worsen the depression. You listen to a song you love, a group you love, whatever, and flatline, nothing. So that wouldn't be a great thing to do. But listening to music is a really good thing to do. Another good thing to do. Focus on what's around you. Focus on what's around you. Touch things. And this is especially good as far as if you're out in nature. Now, I know not everybody lives in a locale where, going for a nature walk is something, right at their disposal. But this is a really good way to engage your senses. It gets you outside of yourself. We get stuck in our minds with anxiety. And when you're out in nature, you're almost forced to engage the five senses. You have bright colors, you have animals, you have other people. All of these things are going to get you outside of yourself, and they're going to engage the five senses. And also, this doesn't have to be some big ambitious undertaking. I'm not telling you guys to hike a mountain. I'm not telling you guys to go for a long walk in the woods. Just get out there. Get out there and engage the senses. Even if you can do it for a short time, all of these things, when you're first recovering, you're not going to be able to do them for a long time. But staying busy is going to have such a net benefit and be so essential in you guys recovering from this that you have to do it. So those are some ways to engage the senses, and that's a really important part of recovery. Again, a lot of the time, and just the last thing I'll mention about engaging the senses, I've also talked to you guys about how I've suffered from derealization and depersonalization, where you really don't feel like you're even in the space that you occupy. Things don't seem real around you, and you don't even seem real. Getting out into nature, listening to music, engaging your senses, these things will help you to feel real again and will help you not to dwell on that feeling of unreality. So that's my 2 cents on that one. I think that engaging the senses is imperative. Physical activity. Guys, I've always known, I was a whirling dervish when I was young. My dad would ground me, and it would frustrate my mom because her respite was when I was able to go outside and work off my energy. So I've always been a physical person. But I don't think I realized exactly how important the physical activity was until I started to get successfully treated, lost weight, and then even to another level once the pandemic hit. Because I was kind of robbed of that physical activity again. And that was right away, within a few months, that had a horrific effect on my mental health. I remember back in 2009, when I first started seeing the doctor that really helped me recover from anxiety. He told me, he could tell. He says exercise is your therapy. He was on to my personality and how important it was for me to engage in physical activity. Now, I love sports. I enjoy working out, and I enjoy just moving and getting out and running and doing things. So for me, there's a host of physical activities I engage in. In the summer, I'll shoot baskets at a basketball court. I love playing recreational softball, and I also, during the pandemic, because we really couldn't engage with other people, I got into this habit of seeing how far I could hit a softball off the tee. And so that was, that was another way I stayed busy. And again, that was before I could get back in the gym. And then when I go to the gym, I like to do weights. And then as far as walks, I like to go for walks with my dog, walks with my son. I enjoy, getting out that way. I will occasionally jog and run. I just try to stay busy, to the extent that I can. In my 50s, I try to stay busy. And I also I always, and I think this is important too, guys, make sure you have a goal with physical activity. It doesn't have to be, looking like someone who's going to model a bikini. But I also find that having goals where, whether it's you increase the distance of your walk or the pace of your walk, or whether it's, and at the gym, obviously with weights, there's always that natural, I feel it's natural, yearning to want to do more, either lift more weight or do more reps. And this is another part, I think, of the real beauty of physical exercise, because I think it almost automatically gives us goals. And a goal is going to occupy time and space in your mind. And when it does that, that's going to give less space for anxiety. And I think that other than the positive neurotransmitters that have been shown in study after study with exercise to be there, I feel like another really huge thing is, just the fact that exercise almost naturally leads to goal setting, and again, definitely boosts mood. For me, it's a revelation. I do know people though, and that I should say this right now. All of these tips, these are just tips that I'm giving you guys, but one or more of them might not be that effective for you as far as staying busy. Some people, like health anxiety, when I was really bad with my health anxiety, exercise was torture, because I was paying attention to every heartbeat, every drop of sweat. I'm thinking I'm going to have a heart attack and drop dead. So, if you find yourself not getting as much of a benefit, or if you're not at that stage in recovery where you can do too much exercise, just be very balanced with this. But exercise I have found, is a very important way to stay busy and to recover from anxiety and depression. Next, creative pursuits. So for all of you artists or musicians out there, or if you like to write, those are all tremendous occupations for your mind. They require actual, deep intellectual thought. Artists, I find that if you are an artistic person, and which I'll confess right here, I'm not very artistic. I live with a bunch of artists who are brilliant, but personally, I'm not very artistic. But I find that when people are artistic, they have to engage in art. And also, this is another thing, all of these things, if you find like you like to do art, whatever kind of art it might be, whether it's sculpting, whether it's drawing, painting, whether it's music, whatever it might be, or writing, if you find you're not able to do that, that can be a good indication, or you struggle doing it, that can be a good indication that your anxiety is not in a good place. This is for those of you who have recovered or are recovering. That might be a good sign that you need to, try to reduce external stress and maybe manage your internal stress better as well. But creative pursuits are excellent when it comes to keeping the mind busy. Obviously, anything that involves creativity is going to involve the mind. and it's going to occupy the mind. It's going to give less time to think about all of those things that we think about as people who deal with anxiety. What if this happens? What if that happens? Oh my goodness, this. You know, we catastrophize everything. We have a tendency to. So, you know, engaging in creative pursuits is an excellent way to keep your mind busy. Next, cognitive challenges. And again, I just want to mention this. I know that if you guys are really suffering badly from anxiety or depression, you know, some of these things aren't going to work, because I could not think deeply when I was in a really bad place with my anxiety. It's just not possible. But this could involve cognitive challenges, could involve reading a book. Those of us out there who love to read, play games, do puzzles, things like that, things that require problem solving. Again, that's because of the way it occupies your mind. That's going to be very beneficial. And learn something new. This is a really good thing to do. There's so many things that I think we say, well, I'll get to that eventually. You want to learn something new? Learn something new. It's a really good way to occupy your mind. And if something is new or unfamiliar to you, generally there's a little bit of excitement in the beginning when you're learning about it, but you also have to pay attention because you don't have any foundation. You can't rely on memory or past experience. So you have to engage your mind if you're going to learn, you know, whether you take an online course, whatever it might be. These are things that you can do to keep your mind busy. Another big one is we need to connect with others. Our relationships suffer very badly when we're deeply anxious or depressed. As we recover, those relationships will recover. But sometimes, especially if our anxiety starts to creep up, we'll start to feel ourselves isolate again. And this can be extremely detrimental. We want to make sure that we talk to our friends and family, give them a call, even if you don't really feel like it, because you think, oh, this is going to take emotional energy. It's going to take, no, that's what we need. I'm not telling you, to call your parent or to call your whoever, your friend or whatever, it's going to be a 3-hour phone call or, it's okay to put a time limit kind of on it, but it's not okay not to do it. Engaging with others. We are social creatures. Study after study shows when we don't engage with other humans, our mental health spirals in the negative direction. So, and this is just anybody out there, all you guys know, when you start isolating yourself, when you start not associating with friends and family, you're not in a good spot. And part of getting better is reestablishing those relationships and making sure you socialize. Again, keep the socialization fairly short. You don't need to stay overnight at someone's house or, like I said, have some big, huge event that's going to add all kinds of stress to the social interaction. Just phone call, whatever. Better to see them in person, better to give someone a hug, better to engage the 5 senses, but however you need to do it, depending on where your anxiety and your depression is at, just do it. Just make sure that you keep your connections with the people that you love, your friends, and your family. This is a really important way to stay mentally and emotionally busy and to keep anxiety from building up and to keep us from perseverating on things that are not going to do any good, that we have no control over. Another one, focusing on tasks. So this is just, I mean, to me, this is a really important one. And again, it's going to be another way for you to tell how you're doing from a mental health standpoint. This basically involves your hobbies, engaging in hobbies. Are you back to doing the hobbies that you enjoy? for me, again, sports, lifting weights, physical stuff. There's, I have music. I have a ton of hobbies that I enjoy engaging in. And, it's important to get back doing it. It can be, I realize a lot of my viewers are younger. Playing video games. Playing video games, it's not as engaging maybe as reading a book or interacting with someone socially, but it does keep your mind busy. Especially certain games. Certain games really require, and I've kind of found this out, vicariously through my son and daughter, who both really enjoy playing video games. They require actually a lot of pretty deep thought and strategy. So it can be playing video games. It can be, for my older subscribers, it could be gardening. It could be, crocheting. Whatever hobbies you enjoy. It could be, going for walks, whatever your hobby is that can keep you busy. I always, there's other things I enjoy looking into. Even though I don't have the money to buy a lot of certain things, I love looking at cars, different cars that are new on the market, with different, whether it's an internal combustion car, an electric car, a hybrid. I love looking. Normally, my wife and I, we lease cars every 3 years or so. And I usually know more about the vehicles than the people at the dealership, because I enjoy doing that research and getting to know exactly what I might be getting into. I think that's a lot of us. If you're like me anyways, we kind of have this tendency to be a little obsessive with stuff like that. Also, another thing you can do as far as focusing on tasks is self-care. This is another thing that really slides when we're especially deeply clinically depressed. But if you're, for our females or males, there's a lot of guys that invest a lot of time in the way they look, whether it's, working out or, their grooming, the way they dress, both men and women want to look good. So, invest in your, whether it's, doing facials, getting your hair done, making sure you're groomed the way you want to be groomed. These are good things, tasks that we have to complete that'll keep us busy. That's the whole point of all these things that I've mentioned. We want to stay busy. We want to keep our minds busy. Anything that's going to keep our mind on busy on something other than anxiety or depression is going to be a positive. And it's also, the other thing about staying busy, we want to stay busy with things that we can control, right? Because the things we keep our minds busy with when we're anxious and even when we're depressed, are things that we have no control over. We don't have control over world events. We don't have control over, inflation. We don't have control over whether or not how, other people's actions. Like maybe we're worried about, the way our family members are acting or some of our friends or whatever the case. These are all things. These are the things that we worry about, or our health. You can control your health to the point of eating healthy, exercising, healthy habits. You have this much control. Heredity is very important when it comes to, and we have no control over that. So by doing these things, though, we're focusing on things that we can control, and it'll give us a sense of, that like we're steering the wheel instead of it's just going on. Because magical thinking makes us feel like, we're trying to control things that we have no business trying to control. And we're trying to do them in a very illogical way. But by keeping busy in these ways, these things are going to have actions and reactions, and we're going to be able to see them, and it's going to give us senses of accomplishment, which is very important during recovery, and it's going to keep our minds busy. So that's about all I wanted to talk about in this video. Guys, there's such a tendency sometimes, especially, depending on what's going on in our lives, or maybe there's a lot of right now, there's a lot of stress in the news. So we can start to feel stressed and start to have that feeling of, isolating and, kind of vacating our lives. Don't do that. Stay busy, stay connected with the people you love and who love you. And this is going to help you. It's going to be instrumental in getting recovered from anxiety and depression and staying recovered from anxiety and depression. And last thing before I go, guys, make sure you're getting your sleep, make sure you're getting your exercise, and make sure you're eating in a way where you're in control. Those things are always going to be paramount in staying recovered from anxiety and depression. So thanks so much for the engagement with the channel. Like, share, subscribe. Let anyone you know who's battling these issues, let them know about the channel. Thanks so much, guys. And until my next video, take care.